All right, guys, we're live, so if you want to share it or whatever, you can do that now. And I'm just going to connect the chat and test the sound, and then we'll be good to go. All right, guys, so just on your mark with that, I guess, whenever you're ready.
Twin Cities. Yeah. It's the new 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 Twin Cities. Yo, welcome back to the new Twin Cities podcast. I'm your host, Fresh.
I'm Tony.
And we back, man.
What's up?
It's been a while, bro.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
But we back, man. See, we only take our time with this because we want to give you guys quality episodes.
Facts.
It's not about the quantity. We all about quality.
It's gotta mean something.
Great. We want to give out great information in the right way to you guys. So
yeah, let y'all know the right way. No phony, no filter. You know.
Today we got a very special guest,
Legendary guest.
A legend in Minnesota for sure. Man, a legendary in the hip hop culture. Period. Like man, this guy been all over the place. You see him in DJing for the Vikings, Twins. You might see him in LA with the Rams. Like he's everywhere, man.
You might see his building on Hollywood Boulevard. You know, like there's a lot of places to catch him, man.
Yeah, man. He's made his mark in this game. So. Let's bring him in.
Yeah, man, we got DJ Skee today, man. DJ Skee in the motherfucking building.
What's up, brother? Most importantly, I'm here today, man. All those places back home.
Yes.
Man, he's in Minnesota, man.
And it's dope to have him here, and it's on such a short notice, man. We hit you up like yesterday, not even 24 hours, I believe.
We make it happen, man.
Appreciate that, man.
Oh,
so all the people that don't usually see him and just think he's a myth, no, he's real. He's real.
We got him here, man. That's the whole point of the show, to let y'all know that people are here, things are happening. Man, what's up, my man?
Man, all this amazing, man. Feeling good. City feels good right now. Weather's a little, what we expected. I say on this trip I get to see 3 seasons. We were joking. I landed. It was like 90 degrees. Had fall the last couple days and winter today. So typical. So I got 3 seasons in
that
one
bipolarness,
right? Gotta love it. But it's great. Twins winning, feeling good for them. Vikings, we got a big game this weekend. So Timberwolves, exciting. Another great season. So
who the Vikings playing? We playing
Chiefs.
We playing.
We really got to fight the Swifties. That's who we're going.
We playing Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. I think she's gonna be in the building too. So.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be big.
Oh, is it home?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Y'all heard that from Skee. She might be in the building.
We'll see.
How do you feel about her getting a day here?
That's wild, right? I mean, look at what the economic impact to her and touring in the city is just wild, right? The fact that people are driving in from all over.
So that's what it is. That's okay. She changed the economy everywhere she goes.
She brought in so much money to all the hotels, food, restaurants, all those things. Like, it's insane what she's done on that tour. It's like Beatlemania. I'm kudos to her. It's just impressive to see at that level.
Is it like Bad Bunny level or past that? Bigger? Big?
She brought 44,000 people to the stadium. Is that past capacity?
She's given the tour bus drivers, what she gave them? She all gave them like a 6-figure check just for being on the road with them that summer. Like, she's making that, like, it's crazy. SoFi, we sold out, I think, like, forget how many nights she had in a row there. It was insane just seeing them, all the production, them bring it up and take it down there.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, sheesh. All right.
And that's coming from you, and you've been around for a minute, so.
Man.
It's crazy to see. I don't think, I don't know. I don't know what's next. I don't know. I'm trying to think who can top that. Like, it's on another level.
Drake, she said man. Drake not even up there. No.
Yeah, we were talking about that too, man.
Different game.
Here's the thing: what you realize, just when you think you made it, there's always somebody bigger, right? Like, so you can never play that game of trying to be the biggest, the baddest with us.
It's levels to this, right? It's levels to it.
And at a certain point, it doesn't matter, right? As long as you're happy and you're at a certain place, you're gonna be all right. So
yeah, man.
Right. So man, let's get into the beginning, man. Where where you was born. We know you're from Minnesota, but what part?
Yeah. I was actually born in New York, but we moved all over as a kid. My parents were getting jobs, so we moved to Florida, moved to Texas, but Minnesota's hometown. We moved here when I think was 5. So, and this is where I really grew up. All my first memories up until the time I moved to LA when I was 17. I was here. So when anybody asks hometown or says what it is, and all my loyalties, it's here. So.
Hey,
love, man.
That's love.
Yeah, of course, man. Sure. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. We need people like you to rep Minnesota the right way, man. You've been doing it the right way for a minute, so
I'm here. It's what made me who I am, right? Like, and I still like all my memories. And if somebody says I've lived, the crazy thing is, wasn't born here. Mm-hmm. I've lived in LA longer now than I've lived in Minnesota in terms of years. But if somebody says what home is, it's still always instinctively Minnesota. That's where that feeling is. It's like wherever you grow up, right? And really have those memories. And unfortunately, fortunately for me, but not like we're talking sports, right? Like as a sports fan, it would have been so easy when I moved to LA. Lakers, multiple championships. The Rams even have a Super Bowl. Dodgers, World Series. Minnesota, we have nothing. So that's why, you know my loyalty is here.
Yeah, that's real loyal. If you can go out there and still be a Minnesota fan, that's real loyalty.
It makes it sweeter when we win. That's why this win
exactly.
and at Target Field was so electric the other night too.
Oh man,
first playoff win
in 18 years, and first home series win since 2000. Actually, first home series win since '91. First series win since 2002. But it was just it felt like bigger. It was really weird, and I didn't realize. Like until you're there and that crowd, we had it as loud as I've ever heard that stadium at Target Field. But like everybody felt it because there's games. I remember we're up in the Yankees like 4-0 in the first inning. You're like, we got come back and lose. Like everybody's waiting for something to go wrong historically with the luck. And this time it didn't happen. So once it happened, it's like the floodgates are open.
Yeah,
that's what we need. The culture 100%. Needs that. We need wins here.
Yeah. That's what it is, right? Because like Minnesota always like it's always so close. Even if you look at a lot of the artists that have come up and almost made it, and you know, like there's artists that have been around some of the biggest, and you're like, oh, it's happening, and then it just
come up short.
Like it's always. But it just makes it that much sweeter when it does happen, right? Like patience is real. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
they think it do though. With social media, I think this happened overnight.
Does, man. It's still a fight. I still fight every day, right? Like it's not easy. You know, it's a grind.
Man, it's a super grind.
Persistence.
You can never get comfortable with social media because something's always changing.
Yeah, and everybody's always showing off, right? Like even me, right? Like you see the highlights and all those things. You don't see all the grind and all the like. People aren't sharing the other moments on those things. So it's tough to sometimes look and compare. And we all get caught up doing that. That's one thing that you gotta make sure you avoid and don't look too much into.
Yeah,
comparing your lives to others. Yeah,
yeah, you'll never win.
Bring depression.
Well, since you know along the lines of that topic, you know what is a bad day for DJ Skee? You know.
Man, depends. There's so much stuff like between the business side, right? Like operating business, you know, a couple different entrepreneurial endeavors that I have, and companies is never easy, right? Like you're always putting out fires, always dealing with things, always looking at what next, and you're really, especially when there's people that are dependent on you, right? Like for those paychecks and those things, like it's a pressure. So you got to make sure you do right for them, for backers, for partners, for everybody there. So trying to align and make all those things move, and then also trying to, just so much stuff from no day is the same from being on the road to dealing with just, life. It's wild. It's a grind.
Does it become overwhelming sometimes?
Yeah, it can be. But I think, you just have to take a step back and realize, for me, I always try to realize, like, look, what we do really doesn't matter. Like, I'm doing music. Like, oh no, like the radio show might not have the Vikings, like, oh, you have a game. Like, it's not bad. It's not like, look, I'm not out there like curing cancer, saving lives. Right. So it's not that serious. Like I've got to sometimes remind myself at the end of the day, it's fun and I'm living a dream. So you can't you got to sometimes like put yourself in check with that.
Right. Taking it good with the bad, it comes with it. Yep.
And like look for all the good stuff, right? Like you have to, for every, it might be one great yes. All it takes is that one thing. There can be 99 no's, but all you need is that one.
That one
all it
yes.
takes is one thing to change your life.
So don't ever give up, guys. Like it's just take that one yes to change your life.
Yes, 100%. That's what I think people don't realize, right? Like they're like, oh, I got tonight. It's like keep going. Like nothing stops. You got to keep it rolling. It sucks, but just keep rolling. I think that's my key to success has been really just being persistent, staying with it, and keep rolling until that yes comes.
Yeah, man. Okay. So he doesn't have bad days. He just
right. Try not to try to put it in perspective. There definitely is.
So growing up in Minnesota, was it St. Paul or?
Yeah, I grew up in St. Paul.
Oh, St. Paul.
Went to Central. Yep.
Oh, Central. Okay. Yep. I went to Johnson, but
Yeah, it was all right. We got
it. That rivalry.
We won't hold it against you now.
But growing up in Minnesota, how did you become a fan of hip hop? Like, coming from here back in those days.
I mean, it was what I grew up like listening to, right? Like I my parents were into every type of music. My dad was like a pianist, right? Like always loved jazz. My mom was into everything. Yeah. I listened to everything growing up, right? Like from rock to pop to hip hop. But hip hop was always the foundation and what really stuck with me. My first embarrassing story, right? My first tape purchase. to date myself, right, was MC Hammer, right? It was those things, right? So, and then like early, I remember, getting all those CDs and all those things, but hip hop was just, what the music that motivated me and moved me the most, right? And the foundation for everything that I've done, even though I've gone into a lot of other genres, like hip hop is always core. And when you think of me, I'll always be, I think, associated with that.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. We were just talking about the, 300 bar situation. Like, you're definitely associated with hip hop.
You definitely
all those mixtapes, dude. It's so crazy to look back and see that whole era, which is wild.
Man, we was just talking about mixtapes. Like, we think that they should bring them back. Like, I feel like it let artists be creative, like stepping outside the norm.
It was so fun. I mean, we were playing so loose with it too, because it was really, in hip hop at the time, right? Like touring and those things weren't big. Social media wasn't as big, like you were like MySpace era and stuff. So the way artists got out were mixtapes, and especially like with all the work I did with Game, he was on 50's label and they had beef, so he couldn't put out music. So it was the only way for him to actually like release things. Was kind of there. The challenge and the disappointing thing for me, right, like is all that work, 100 mixtapes that I did, I think, in that era, they're all like unlicensed and in like that gray area. So you can't go on like Spotify and find them. Some people have uploaded. There's a couple like small ones, but 99% of them you're not going to find in there. You can't go on Spotify and get 300 bars, right? Like, so a lot of those things are almost like disappearing, which is unfortunate because all the history of music and those things have gone to licensing. So hopefully they can figure a way to license it.
Yeah, just bring it back,
because there's so many great records. You're starting to see it. Drama's got some of his out there now. Like Clue, I just saw got another one up there. So somebody approached me about it. We got to hopefully make it happen.
Yeah,
so
man, we got to start
there.
That. Yeah, mixtapes was everything. I remember going and watch Dat Piff and looking at the artwork on the screen, the whole
mixtapes,
the countdowns.
Yeah,
and that's the best.
And like we were getting more downloads than regular albums, right? Like the mixtapes were better than albums for a lot of people because you had the freedom, the creativity, the ability to explore, the ability to sample and experiment. I think it's really hip hop in its purest form, right? Because you have the artist, the DJ, you're not really doing it for, definitely not for the money, right? Like it's really about the art to build your brand, and it just created so many great moments where you could play loose and get things out and iterate and get them and move and adapt and do the freestyles and take a beat that you liked and flip it and do it your own way, which is like really the essence of what hip hop was, which is why, I just always loved mixtapes.
Yeah, no, for sure, bro. I mean, like, between everything you did and then the drama and the dedications, we look forward to that kind of stuff. Like what is this artist gonna rap on this time? Because we always wonder what he'd sound like on this beat. So
I know who you're gonna find. How you're gonna find those new artists? That's where I remember doing Kendrick's first mixtapes, Nipsey's, all these guys, right? Like that was their introduction to the world, and a lot of them came up on a lot of the, like especially on the West Coast side. A lot of them were coming up on the mixtapes I was doing with Game.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into that conversation for sure in a few minutes. So you went to Central, right? So mom and dad were both in the music, and so you said 17, you moved out to LA.
Yeah.
And who? Cal Ripken?
Yeah, Steve Ripken. Yeah. So it was crazy. I never worked a real job. I was always kind of like entrepreneurial by nature. So like in high school, all my friends worked at like Best Buy or Target, right? Okay. So when PS2s or Xboxes would come out, I'd slide them $20 to tell me when the shipments were in, so I could go buy them and sell them for double the money on eBay.
Hustle.
Yeah. So it was just hustle. It was just kind of in my genes. Like I was just always trying to figure out business angles and things. And through that, I got connected with Steve Ripken, or with Stretch Armstrong, a big DJ at the time. And he was meeting with Steve Ripken. Steve needed a PS2 for his son for Christmas, connected us. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll hook him up, right? I realized the value of networking. I didn't care about making any money off Steve Ripken.
Right.
And then just stayed in touch with him. I was then selling shoes at the time, just a kid on the internet before people really knew. It wasn't doing anything crazy. I was just buying like exclusive Air Force One colorways and Jordans.
What year was this?
This has to be like 2001. So and also, we were lucky in Minneapolis. We had a shop called Friedman's that used to have
shout out to Friedman's, man.
That used to have they had the best Nike account at the time because they were one of the original sellers of Blue Ribbon Sports, which was Nike's first brand. So
for real?
So that's why they had like at the time this like it was like the West Indies, the Puerto Rico Air Force Ones, like crazy exclusives that were only available like in like Harlem and like sold out instantly, they would get. So like I became the plug, and all these rappers, Fat Joe and stuff, I started selling shoes to that I was getting from Friedman. So I built my network there, which is wild.
That is cool, man.
So I started doing that and started hooking up Steve with shoes, and became like this go-to. People were, and it was just by like connecting the dots, either from ordering them from like, I was getting European colorways from like European sites and importing them to going to Friedman's and buying things. And that's how I started my shoe collection. I'd like sell two to pay for one pair of mine.
Yep.
And that's how I got in early on those things. But anyways, connected with Steve. Ultimately decided like, hey, I had some ideas, and I was like, let me send him some things over. So out of the blue, just put together a whole outline on what I thought he was doing wrong with his label, and happened to be at the right place at the right time. The internet was disrupting the music industry, and I was a kid growing up on the internet, so was able to give him a lot of ideas. And he's like, come meet with me. So I ditched high school, flew out to New York, and he offered me a job. Like at the time, I was like, coolest thing I could have done was like to start a street team out here. Like that would have been my biggest thing. You get like if I got like a Wu-Tang Clan hoodie or something, I would have been the happiest kid in the world. And when he got like, I didn't expect that offer, and it changed my life, right? Like it was just, luck is preparation meets opportunity.
So you pulled a LeBron in the music industry.
I got lucky. Well, it was literally like that, right? Because I was planning on going to like college. Like I didn't really think that much about it, but going on like I would say the more traditional path at the time. And then once that happened, it was like, it's a tough decision. It's like very obvious, like, yeah, of course I'll move to LA, but like, is it? Like, you're not making very much. You've never been somewhere.
Yep.
Like, you're uprooting your whole life. I had to graduate high school a year early. I had to figure out a way to graduate a year early so I could go out and work for him because he didn't want me to wait. And like, would that opportunity have been there if I went to college and waited 4 years? No, he would have moved on and forgot. Like, you got to strike while the iron's hot. So it was like being in the right place, right time, and then not being afraid to jump in and jump through that door. And I figured, what's the worst that could happen? I'll come back here and, just on the same path that I'm on. Man. And fortunately enough, it worked out. So,
dude, that's a big jump, bro. Like, especially, back in them days,
right?
Like as a kid too. Like, how did your parents respond to that?
I mean, fortunate, my parents were always supportive of like following my dreams and passions, right? They really empowered me and encouraged me. So like if I was like, oh, I want to do this, I wanted to be a baseball player growing up. So they were like, yeah, play baseball. And I got music, they're like, go for it. So, I think they understood and realized, and, I had that support of them where, they weren't, sometimes I see a lot of people like, it's all about the environment around you. And if people don't believe in you or tell you, you can't do that. Like a lot of other parents might have been like, no, don't do that. It's dumb. You can always do that. Like do this, go to school. Like they were like, go for it. Like they kind of knew like the risk reward, and they knew that
especially being in music, you gotta know that. If you want to
so like they supported it. They thought it was a little crazy, I think, like anybody else, but they knew also that like, you got to sometimes like let things
take that chance.
Yeah. And they really encourage you. But they really like let me follow that passion and didn't like discourage me. So they were always encouraging on anything that I wanted to do. Right.
Was you like super responsible? Like at a young age, like you took care of yourself?
Yeah, a lot of those things. Like my parents got divorced early on in those things, and my parents were great, but growing up, my mother was alcoholic. So that phase, like at night, was like a different person. So it was really like me growing up a lot on my own, which I think was a blessing in disguise, right? When I look at that, because if I didn't have to grow up so young and take care of myself a lot of those nights and things, I wouldn't have been prepared to leave so early and be ready to be independent. So, tough at the time, and she regrets it. I actually think that everything happens, and I'm blessed that happened because I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for that.
So you never had like held a grudge or anything?
No, it's great. And she's been sober for now, I can't even, a long time, which is incredible, which is awesome. So, great to see, but like, and I know she regrets it, but for me, it's like, yeah, there was moments tough as a kid, but I really don't think I would be here if it wasn't for that. Yeah. So I think you have to take any situation that comes and look, it is what it is, right? Like you can't change it, flip it. And I was fortunate to use that as, as a benefit later in your life. There's pros and cons to everything, so weighing it out.
Turn lemons into lemonade type shit.
Like it motivated you to take stuff to the 100%. Next level, right?
And if I hadn't been like forced to kind of grow up a little quicker than I wanted, I don't think I would have been able to move in LA and keep a head on straight when I was like 17, right?
So how did you meet Steve?
Steve through Stretch Armstrong. So Stretch Armstrong was a big DJ. It was just a network of kind of DJs that we all were connected with. My father actually knew somebody and introduced me to somebody that knew another DJ, and he kind of took me under his wing as like a kid that was kind of interning him for that. And again, I was like a kid online and like started like ghost producing things and hanging out at the radio show that he was doing. And he was meeting with Steve Rifkin about one of his artists, and Steve just happened to blurt out, like, I need a PlayStation. Does somebody have one? And Stretch is like, oh, I got this little kid. Minneapolis, you might have one, right? He's like, hey, Steve Rifkin needs one. You have one? He's like, yeah.
Of course I do.
What's his address? Here it is. Overnighted it, right?
Oh, that's dope.
And this is the height of Steve Rifkin Loud Records, right? Like Wu-Tang Clan, they just had their biggest year, all those things. Exhibit was just off the Dre stuff. So Mobb Deep, everybody, like, they were on fire.
So walking into that, like, as this kid from Minnesota, was it a culture shock?
Yes and no, right? Like, you always, my first day with Steve was crazy. He just sat me in the office. He's like, you know what to do, right? And I'd never had a job at that point, right? And I'm in LA and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. And Steve is my guy, but he doesn't always give guidance. But he's great at seeing talent, right? So he's like, and for me, I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. And just like, I don't think he really knew what to do. He's just like, you know stuff, and like, I need to have you around, so like, figure it out. And that's kind of how I work, for better or worse, right? Like, some people need that structure. For me, I'm just like, hey, I don't want that. Like, let me go figure out how to make that happen. So, yeah, it was wild. And like, look, it was definitely a big jump going to LA, right? Like a place I've never been. And
just the 90s or early 2000s?
It's the early 2000s. So,
LA was on fire back then too.
Yeah, and so it was like, it was quite a jump. And it was actually, it threw me off a little because I was originally going to move to New York. And then after 9/11, Steve wanted to spend more time in LA. He was bi-coastal. And I was more excited to go to New York because I knew Stretch. I was from there originally. So I had a little more connections in New York other than LA. So it kind of threw me off too. And I almost didn't do it. I was like, I don't want to go LA. Like, I was kind of set on New York. But in retrospect, it was the best thing that happened, because even on mixtapes, right? Like, New York, I wouldn't have been able to be who I was because all these artists, there were so many established mixtape DJs, right? You had K-Slay, Clue, Envy, Who Kid, all these people. So like, any big artist is going to go for them. In LA, there wasn't. So that, like, that's where I was able to take those lanes. So that's where I say, like, everything kind of happens for a reason, and take it on. And because of that, there was a wide open lane that nobody was able to do. So I was able to slide in and kind of take that top spot from it.
So DJ Charisma, they didn't come till later, or was they around when
she was later and stuff. So,
so you was
Yeah, so on the mixtape side, there was nobody, like, there was a couple, there's obviously like old school legends that had done those things, but for this era, this new hip hop, there's only a couple DJs really doing it, but nobody on like the level of like, what New York was, and those things. And I took that blueprint of what had happened in New York and really doubled down and networked. And it was the right time too, where West Coast hadn't had any big new artists in a while. The mixtape scene wasn't the thing. Got connected with Game, and then like 300 Bars, the rest is history. And then everybody else started coming through: Snoop, Kendrick, you name it. So.
After that, and then So I read something that you managed Akon first, or
I was signed Akon. So when I moved to went to work for Steve, the first artist, he was actually he ended his Loud Records deal with Universal, or with Sony, got a new deal with Universal for SRC Records, and the first artist they had was Akon. So the first artist I worked on and brought up together, and I remember doing parties, and nobody would go out to see Akon. They're like, who is this new artist and stuff, and then to watch him become like the highest, one if not the highest selling artist of the 2010s was wild.
Yeah, how was it pushing Locked Up? That was like his first single,
first
right?
Song. Yeah, I did his first mixtape, so it was all those things were on there. Yeah, so Connor's my guy. It was wild. I mean, it literally went from watching an artist go from 0 to 100 was insane. And then like at the peak, right? Like I remember the height of it, like
Locked Up.
Locked Up, blows up, all those things. And then he's got the records with Eminem. I remember showing up at the video shoots, and like M is the biggest artist in the world. Akon's the biggest thing there. To watch him grow so fast was awesome to see. And just incredible to be a small part of that journey for him.
Man, did you see that right away?
I knew that music-wise, like I heard the records. They were incredible, and Steve always had that ear. As soon as he played it for me, I was like, "We need to do this. We need to put this out. This is that." So.
Was that around the time T-Pain was out, or was this before T-Pain?
Before, and he signed T-Pain.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. So crazy story. So yeah, Con found Pain and put him under Convict Music. So
okay, that's like that similar sound.
Same with the Lady Gaga. Yeah, they moved it. Gaga's first album was released on Convict Music too.
So you was around all of that.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I remember doing Gaga's first interview, and we were talking about Akon because we knew that. Because her manager at the time, Troy Carter, went to Akon because couldn't get Gaga signed. Gaga was an industry writer. People weren't messing with, they couldn't see the vision, right? So Troy Carter was manager. He's like, yo, we've got to do this. Went to Akon. Akon went on. I was like, yeah, let's put it on. And, they did the deal with Interscope, and it worked out.
was her sound like not as big at the time, or like people just didn't
She
get
was
it?
different. They didn't understand. Anytime something's different that comes in, it takes people are generally followers, right?
Right,
so
right.
any artist that you look that really breaks out with a unique style takes a different journey, and it takes something else for them to get there. If they're kind of a clone of that, then it's easier because people want to put you in a box and be like, oh, this is them. We're going to do that plan. A lot of people in the music industry and investing in anything else just don't have vision, right? And they're scared to do that. So they just want to compare who else is doing it, what else is there. It's just groupthink. Like that's anywhere in life, right? Like the biggest, and we've done it with investors and all those things. It's frustrating. So anything that really succeeds, like you take it back to business, right? Like you look at Uber. A lot of people passed on it. They're like, this doesn't make sense. Why would anybody do this? There's nothing to compare it to. Like the best things don't have comparisons, and Gaga was looked at as like oh, she's just a great writer, great songwriter. Can she do it? And she had a really bold style that
like
people
her
weren't ready
voice
for.
or her
They loved her
playing?
voice, but it's about image and marketing
Was
and
she
who is
saying-
she, and like she was a little she was saying some wild shit, right? Like she had a crazy look, and I remember when she walked into our KISS offices when I did that first interview. Our offices at the time were just like it's a corporate office, right? Like you're walking by cubicles and salespeople, and here she is walking in full costume. And this is like
Hair did up,
right?
all-
Hair
yep.
did up, points, short skirt, like the wildest stuff. She was always a star and always had those things.
Prime Gaga.
But people didn't get that, right? Like it was too uncomfortable for others, and they didn't have a comparison point. But that's why she was able to explode.
Man.
She always had the talent. There's no. I don't think people ever questioned her talent. They're just like, oh, is she the?
Is the world ready for this yet?
Yeah, and its pop
Okay.
at the time was a lot more bubblegum, right?
Right.
She made it monsters.
Yeah,
turned it
and
into a monster.
then she became the biggest artist in the world from that. So
Man.
So that came before the game.
that came after, actually. That came so Akon was before, and then Pain was in the middle of it, and Gaga was later on. So.
Okay.
Man,
So how was artist development way different back then than it is now? You would say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they take more shots now. It's all data driven, and you're seeing TikTok, and now you're seeing the falls of that, right? You're seeing songs becoming bigger than an artist. But again, you still follow groupthink. Like people would want to wait, and nobody wants to give you a shot. That's why I always tell artists, like, make yourself hot, because until then, it's not going to matter. A&Rs aren't going to see your stuff, and they're going to judge you based on success and get some leverage and build yourself up. Like start off on your block and your neighborhood and those things, and go from there. You don't need that. That can amplify it when it's ready, but like start off and make people come to you. Like with selling anything, right? Like you want to look at sneakers. I like people want to see they want to buy what's selling out there. And if you put blank things on, they might not buy those things if they didn't know if it's going to sell out or not, right? Like it's all. Again, kind of those things. So you got to kind of make it yourself hot and get people to come to you. So it was always like that. It was just done in a different way. It was done in mixtapes and a little more development maybe. But this is the time the music industry was catering too, because CD sales were down. Everybody was bootlegging things. It was before streaming took off. So it was actually a more challenging time to make money in music.
Oh, okay.
Yep, man. Yeah, CDs really took a lot away, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean CDs were the high point. Then after Napster and the whole MP3 thing, like the music industry was like basically left for dead, right? Like,
Wow.
even on mixtapes, like we looked at that's why we never cared about making money. Like I grew up in an era we didn't care about making money from music because it was just a way to get our brand out so we could make money from shows or endorsements. Or
Right.
For me, I looked at music as the biggest advertisement in the world to give me the connections and give me the relationships to do everything else that I did. It wouldn't be possible if I wasn't doing those mixtapes, but it wasn't making money from those mixtapes. So we'd put every dollar that we put back into it to make more just to get them out there.
Yep, facts, man. Bring back mixtapes,
Man, we need them back, man.
Because mixtapes were about the art and creativity, and everything's about money now.
Yeah, and
Money
the great
that.
thing, no limits, right? Because we weren't clearing samples and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
right.
So you could just throw things out. It was a time.
Man, I missed it. Man, so being in the middle of that beef, did you get any type of backlash from 50 and that whole side of G Unit?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and it was interesting because I was actually close to 50 in the whole Violator team, and and those guys at the time we'd done a lot of work. And I didn't have anything like against them. It's not my beef, right? Like I was boys with both of them, right? Like it's like both of your boys are fighting. The way 300 Bars came about, I knew Game. Obviously, I'm in LA, so I'm probably a little closer to Game than I was 50, but was tight with both sides. And then when I remember they had the Peace Street, all these things. He played me the first. He's like, I'm going to diss 50, and he played me the first few minutes of what was 300 Bars, but it was all over one beat. So I went back, I listened to it, I was like, that's cool, but you should switch it up. So I went in my studio just for fun. Like, he didn't ask me to do anything. He wasn't looking for anything. And I started mixing a bunch of beats, and then I emailed it to him, and I was like, yo, check your email. I think you should do something more like that. And it was just like advice, right? Like I was just like, hey, you should do this. And I thought that would be the end. I thought he might open it and listen and maybe take some direction, maybe not even open it.
Right.
15 minutes later, he calls me. He's like, I'm on the way. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we're recording this. Let's do this. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. And so it was funny. When I moved, I was always a DJ, but I moved out to work for Steve. So I was working on the business side first. And at the time, like I hadn't blown up as a DJ, right? Like that was what I did, but I was in the industry. And so I didn't even think Game was thinking to like work with me on that. Like he knew I was a DJ and I was doing like little mixtapes, but nothing of real note. I was still building my brand.
Right.
We did a lot of other work and we're just friends from those things. And that's kind of how I was helping advise him. But like to his credit, like he was like, all right, let's go do this. He saw that and trusted me. And then we went in and 18 hours later finished first half that night, the second half the next day. And then it was like another one of those like pivotal changing moments in my life. And I didn't even realize at first when we were mixing it that my name was going to be on it. Like, because I'm like, oh, he's just going to take this and like, all good. That happens a lot, right? Like there's a lot of ghost producers in music. And I was like just happy to be a part of it. And like, I just love music and it was fun for me. And then he's like, oh, let's record the rest. Send me your logos. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, send me your logos. We're putting you on the mixtape. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, for multiple reasons. I was like, one, this is going to change my life because I knew the impact that song was going to have.
Yeah.
And again, it's like jumping through doors. Like, yeah, it's obvious, but like, is it? And then I knew like the heat and the beef that's in. Like, that was real beef. Like, people literally got murdered in that.
Yep.
In that drama, and being a part of it was crazy. And I got calls from the other side on that, but like the way I positioned myself was I never tried to be something I was, and I'm not out there claiming bloods and doing those things and rolling
interviews.
Like, I'm a producer, obviously. Like I'm affiliated with Game and on that side and doing all his mixtapes, so there's gonna be that blowback. But like, are you guys gonna go after me, a little white boy from Minneapolis, right? Like in the middle of this beef that hasn't done anything? That's like the producer and. Like, and like, here's my thing. The way that I'm able to walk between that world to the same thing with billionaires and investors and that is I don't never try to be somebody that I'm not, right? Like whether I'm here or there. And I think people recognize that. It's when people get out of their comfort zone. And like, if I was sitting there, like trying to bang blood, do game things, then like I probably would have been in some trouble, beef, right? Like, but I never, like that's not me, right? Like, And I think that, I've taken that same thing to the boardroom, right? Like, and there's been moments where I've tried to like dress up and do the suits and those things. And I'm like, it's not me. That's not what people are bringing in. My advantage is because I can kind of mix and walk between all those worlds. So I've learned to really embrace that. But I think I always did that and was at the middle of it. But yeah, look, going back, would I do it? I was a 20-year-old, right? Like being in the heart of this beef, like
20 years old.
That's crazy, right? I was like, that was my shot. So,
bro, I was in middle school listening to that on the bus, bro. Like, dude, this
wild
Game was going nuts.
He was going nuts.
And then he had like 5 other mixtapes too on top of that. So it got, and like that stuff got crazy. And look, I watched over my back. I wasn't dumb with those things, but like at a certain point, like you have to choose. Like if I wanted to make it as a DJ, like there's everything. What we talk about, pros and cons. Like that was the path, and otherwise, who knows when it would have happened, if it would have ever happened, right? Like when that big break would have came. So I had to jump, like I had to make a decision, and I went all in. And some of it just being young and foolish too, right? Like looking back, would I do and put myself in a lot of those situations with a lot of those people? Like probably not. At this point, you get a little more conservative as you get older. But at that point, I didn't know any better, and I didn't care, and I wasn't hiding, and I wasn't like I embraced and never tried to be anything that I wasn't.
Was you a lot of, because LA is known for gang culture. Was you around a lot of gang members around the time?
100%. I mean, like, look at who just the Games crew was, as well as like
Black Wall Street,
all these artists and stuff, right? Like, I was in the heart of that, and like even some of the OGs embraced me, from like Soul Assassins cartoon, Esteban, that whole crew. They have the LA Originals documentary on Netflix, which is incredible. They took me in young, right? Like, and just really embraced me. So I always had, for me, I always tried to do good things by them. With cartoon, I got him his first corporate deal with T-Mobile, with a Sidekick. With a lot of these artists, I put them on and we're doing things on the radio. So I had a lot of support, and I always tried to be just like a real good dude to everybody.
Oh man.
Man, yeah, you're aside from being a DJ, you're also like one of the more business oriented DJs around. You've had some, you've done stuff with Xbox, Roblox, Netflix. Is Target on the list?
You know what? I don't know if I've done anything with Target, which is crazy enough, right?
Yeah.
Town, we should.
Right?
Target
That'd be big for you.
Yeah,
That'd be
right?
good,
Stadium
We've done
right
everything
now.
else. Yeah, we've done all the stadiums and all those things. We've done a lot of brands. Yeah, I've been fortunate to have a great career, and I was able to really leverage my unique ability and connection was the music side, right? Like it was a marketing tool. That's how I built this network of, investors, of being able to get that deal flow, being able to work with these brands. Because that was I always try to find what your unique advantage is, right? Like my unique advantage was people wanted to be alongside me because I was with these artists or DJing this club or at the stadium and those things. And that's that access is something that not anybody can have, and that I've been able to maneuver into kind of the entrepreneurial space and learn and kind of get mentored from some of the best in the world.
Right.
No, seriously. I mean, you started off with Mr. Ripken, man, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you came in the game strong.
Yeah, and then getting
real strong, bro.
from that to watching, the craziest thing is getting emails from Mark Cuban, somebody that I watched and idolized for as those things, and now having a Rolodex pro sports team zone of all these people that I talk to and work with on a consistent basis is kind of wild and a dream come true. But then you realize, hey, anything is possible, and I've been able to really maneuver in the right ways.
Yeah. If you're able to maneuver in the right ways.
Would you say your network is your net worth?
100%. I look, and that's my belief, and that's where I play, right? There's people that make more than me. There's people that do those things, but there's not a lot of people that have probably as network as wide and diverse as me. And I've kind of built myself, even in the industry, as this incubator between anything else, right? Like when Lil Wayne and Mark Cuban want to connect the dots, let's solve this, let's do these things, let's put together this pro sports team with this, let's do this brand with this person, and really know how to connect all these different angles. That's why it looks like I do a lot, and there are a lot of areas, but everything I do somehow comes together. There's a synergy in the middle, and I'm able to kind of play, this 3D chess.
I think that's the dopest thing with the culture. You can connect it to so many things. So,
100%.
man, hip hop, man, I love it.
Started off with mixtapes, right?
Man, I love it.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. So, starting off strong, with Loud Records and all that, did you incorporate that when you started Skee TV and Dash
100%.
and your own networks?
100%, right? I was able to build my career, learn the industry side of those things, launch Skee TV, first business, or actually second business. I launched a marketing company before that.
Oh, okay.
Called
And
Hype.
what was that called?
Called Hype, and that was when I left Steve before. I left him after being there for a couple of years, as he was focused more on the label side, and I was doing a lot of these brand deals. So, I was just hey, let me do that. I was doing basically all of this stuff there. So I was all right, I can do this on my own. Steve gave me his blessing, and did that for a couple of years. Did that for a year until the game stuff blew up, and then I focused on my DJ career, and then launched Skee TV and kind of brought it all together. Nice. And then from that was able to we built that up to reinvent music videos. We were the first to shoot on digital when everybody was shooting film. It's a very obvious thing, but nobody was doing it. So again, a lot of things I've done have just been doing obvious things.
So how did you stay being a business? How do you stay ahead of the curve? I see with Dash Radio, you went to the internet instead of the
100%.
regular way.
I left. I think my one skill has always been to be able to see trends a little early on, right before they happen. Not too early, but right when they're on the cusp. Whether it's an artist, if you look back in Kendrick Gaga game, even, if you look at products that I've been involved in, movements and moments, and I think. It's taking things obvious. When YouTube came out, I was this is going to change the world of content. We could do a show every day. There doesn't have to be a set format that's 30 minutes. Let's do a cool thing. I'm a DJ. I'm on the road every night or interviewing an artist or getting new sneakers. All of those could be a show, right? That's all part of the culture that's relevant. Let's put those things up. Looking at music videos, I'm every music video labels are spending $150,000, $250,000 on and shooting on film. I found some great film student kids that were doing cool things on YouTube. I was could we do this with a music video? And they're yeah. I was all right, let's try it. And we started shooting them digitally, and then had a great run. And even with Dash, right? I was on the biggest music hip hop, the only hip hop show on TV, really. So I guess it's the biggest. And I was on the biggest radio stations in the country. iHeart, with Kiss FM, Sirius, doing Hip Hop Nation 6 days a week, and just realized that those legacy forms with the phone, with connected cars, the moat that they had was antennas in LA for one station, one signal at the height of the market that was selling for a few $100 million, right? So that was the moat that kept people out. With a phone, anybody could launch a station. So we saw content was changing and the distribution means, and I literally quit the biggest station and being in like one of the most powerful positions in music, programming new music, running these shows, having a TV show to focus on building something from zero was a risk, but something that I thought was very obvious that somebody needed to do. So again, in retrospect, it's like, yeah, of course things are going to phones. We've seen what's happened to terrestrial radio, to commercial TV. So made the right decision, but at the time, you know, a lot of people are just scared to leave that comfort zone. And I think I've never really, you know, I think one of the things too is not being scared, like not really scared. You just jump in and go for it.
Not thinking twice. Like,
yeah, you just go for it. Jump off the bridge.
That's how me and him are. As soon as because we think that, you know, it comes from God, the universe. You know what I'm saying? That's a big part of our thing, you know? So when he shows us, we take it. And
it's not like making dumb risks, right? Like, oh, let's not go out when it's 30 degrees with no clothes on for 20 minutes because we're cool. Like, it's taking, like, you take calculated risks, but when you know and you look at the upside and if you really believe it, don't be scared to go for it. Like, yeah, there's going to be a million reasons not, but it's the worst that can happen, especially with what we do. I try to always put things in perspective, right? Like, we're doing music. All right, this doesn't work. Oh, no, I didn't make it on radio. Like, cool.
Try something else.
Figure something else, right?
Yeah, because if you stop, then you fail automatically.
I'd rather fail. I could live with myself trying and failing. I couldn't live with myself if I was the person that's like, I had that idea and watched somebody else do it, and I never did it, and I could have. That would haunt me more than anything else.
Seriously.
So now that we moved from the CD era to now streams and more digital stuff, do you think that's hindered the music industry, or like do you think it made it better?
I think there's pros and cons to everything. I mean, the ability to go over the top with fans, to not need a label, to be able to put out music like Drake probably finished his album few hours before he put it up. Like, it used to be, things used to get bootleg because you'd have to send it to the pressing factories and wait weeks for him to come back and stuff. So you didn't have time to move that quickly. That's where mixtapes kind of filled that gap until streaming came in, because we could like record a song and put it out that night and just like leak it online, or press up some CDs and pass them to the bootleggers.
$1,000 on mixing and mastering.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I was doing all the mixing and mastering of all those things, right? Thank you, by the way, to Central High School. That's why I got started, because they had that recording program in the basement there. So that's where I got into. That's actually what made me a DJ, because I learned how to engineer, and that was actually, I think, one of my key selling points, because nobody knew Pro Tools. Like, only engineers knew Pro Tools at the time. So I learned it when I was 13 years old, thanks to this random program at Central. Yeah, shout out to Red, the teacher there. And from that, that's how I was able to always get my mixtapes to sound so good, because I was able to mix and master them myself. And at a time when DJs like were all over the place. So yeah, taking it back a second, it was those things. But I think like there's pros and cons to it. Now the challenge is you're flooded. Anybody can do it, right?
Exactly.
It's a good thing is anybody can do it. Bad thing is anybody can do it, right? So there's not like gatekeeping. At least the labels before, the one good thing was there was like somebody that was almost like curating for you, right? Like, it might not have been right, but there was somebody there as kind of a gatekeeper. Now that that's gone, there's 20 billion things that you have to go through, so it makes it more difficult to find and identify new things. So I think there's pros and cons to everything, but holistically, I'm a fan of it. I wish this existed when I was growing up, right? Like, the ability to do that, not need those gatekeepers. I'm always a fan of.
You think you would have made more money back then? Like, if this streaming era was back when the game and all that?
Sure, because like we weren't making it. Like, I grew up in a different era. We did not make money from music. Like, artists, you would try to get your advance from the label. Labels are shady, so they're always going to deduct and find crazy deductions in your contract. So your advance was really the only money you would ever get. For me, doing mixtapes, right? Like, we're putting all the money back into mixtapes, to pressing them, to getting them out there. You're dealing with consignment, with bootleggers, so you're not like, you can't. Well, you might get this great reach. You're not really gonna. And if you are, it's not going to be that much, unless like we'd make money from other people coming and paying us to produce their mixtape then, or from a brand deal. And for me, I was like, I knew that put me on a platform and would give me access to a lot of others that I could connect and do real business with. So I always approached music as the world's best marketing tool, but never something that I could make money from. And now you can make money from that music side. So I do miss that, but I'm just not from that kind of era.
Yep. That's dope, man. You seem like you've been around band since the beginning.
Man,
I feel old, man.
Your whole kind of like journey is like set up for this, you know. Like, you took the risk at 17, and then you also started at a great starting point, which put you ahead of people by a million miles. and then you carried that energy with you throughout everything you did, you know?
And that's what I still try to do, right? Like find opportunities, not be afraid to jump into them, and don't be afraid to fail in those things even. And, you know, leverage all these different things that you have and what you've built and go for what you believe in. And do right along people in the way too. That's another key thing, right? Like, the industry is small, and no matter what, no matter who you are, the biggest artist in the world, you're not going to be hot forever, right? And once you have this life cycle, right? And there's peaks and valleys, and I can even say it through my career, right? When you're down, like, people are not going to want, if you're an asshole to them or difficult to work with, people aren't going to want to work with you. If you're a brand, though, and you're like, yeah, he's cool, he's there, all right, let's work with him. We know he's going to come through and be easy and do those things. People want to do people, you know, treat people the right way on the way up and on the way down, right? Like, it pays off. Like, I think that's one thing that's key. And one reason that I've been able to stay around for music industry is short term. Like, look at a lot of those mixtape DJs. I mean, Drama's around, Clue's around, Who Cares? There's a few of us still around, but a lot of them aren't. If I was just that, like,
it would be
tough times.
Even them, DJ Drama and them had to switch some things up. They 100%. Had to get hip to the streaming.
Yeah, and they found their lane, right? Like signing artists and doing those things. Clue went to commercial radio and did those things. Like, you know, Who Could still toured the world, and that everybody kind of found a lane and niche for it. For me, it was really like just becoming, you know, launching businesses and putting those things together and connecting the dots.
Have you ever thought about opening your own label, having your own label?
I've thought about it. I mean, but, you know, experiencing it and seeing the challenges that music faces, as well as the amount of competition now, it would have been a time for me not when I was at the height of that, right? Like doing the mixtapes and had my ear to the street every day, where I was like, right now, I'm not sitting here trying to, you know, like when I was in that era, right? Like, I was every day finding what's newest, doing the latest and all those things, and you evolve, and there's other people that are doing that better than me. And my interests have kind of shifted. I know what the upside is in the music side. If it'd have to be the perfect opportunity, but that's not really of interest to me. I think that there's a lot better things that I can do with my time than that, especially is seeing how temperamental the industry is.
Exactly. You know? Hey, nothing wrong with that. That's just being real.
Yeah.
So, Minnesota, how have you, how have you seen the culture change here since, being 16, moving till now, going back and forth? Has the culture grown? Like, have you seen a big change in it since?
Yeah, I mean, like, there wasn't a commercial radio station. I think one had just started right when I left, right? Like B96, and I went away. There's been a couple of things, right? So, like, there wasn't that. We were in KMOJ before they had the nice studios. We were in a small studio in North Minneapolis, right? That, shout out to DJ Arnaud. Like, I was doing a 4 a.m. shift, right? And he'd come get me, and this is what Minneapolis, like, it was not, especially probably me as a white boy driving over from St. Paul, like, coming out. It's a place that people wanted to be, but everybody took care of me and embraced it. So, like, there's a lot more. I think it's definitely a lot more established, right? Like, you have guys, you have people like with real places and doing real things and going out, getting out there, hitting the road, hustling, making things happen, right? Like, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of people trying and a lot of good energy. And now it's just about, I think, people staying united. If you look at the cities, everybody in here should try to embrace everybody, because it's not me or them. It's us. When you look at the biggest movements that have happened in music, you can take it back to Motown. You can take it to, obviously, what happened in Atlanta, even the Bay Area, with hip-hop scenes. They really built a culture and all supported each other. When you, at a time in the era, you could go to Atlanta and Bay Area. Every other radio station in the country would sound the same hip-hop-wise. You could go to any New York. New York might be a little different, but like, from, say, Chicago to Dallas, all the same 40 LA.
Yep.
Atlanta and San Francisco were the only cities you could go to and be like, damn, it's different. It's popping in locally. And, like, Atlanta had that whole movement. Akon was there. T.I. was there. And they all were, like, not from the same label and crew, but all, like, aligned. And things were all happening at the same time. And there was enough support between them. Of course, there's always going to be some drama and things. But generally, like, things happen, and that put the spotlight on, and greatness inspires greatness. Like, if you're an athlete, it's why a lot of athletes' sons make it, right? Because they're around and they're in that ecosystem. You're playing against the best. So I think, like, the one thing here, we have to really embrace each other and support anybody. Like, one person's success, that's great for everybody, right? It's not us or them. I think it's like, how do we collectively as a community all grow and move those things? And that's why I always try to use my platform and voice and even stop by here as much as I can, right? Like to try to empower and show that if I can do it, I'm not the smartest guy. Anybody else out there should be able to, and should be able to make it be far more successful than me. But it's important to come and give back and try to put that spotlight on and do those things. So like go out and do it, and let's do it as a community, or power in numbers.
Man, you hit it right on the nose, is staying together. Yeah. I think that's the magic ingredient. That's why we don't charge to do interviews or even charge to put your video on our platform, because we need to establish the culture first, I believe. We need to show the people who is the culture. Yeah. What is people doing here? Who is who? You know, so
Kendrick, we were putting on my mixtapes for free, and guess what? When he blows up and when I launch my TV show and I need a big guest and I can't book anybody last second because everybody's out of town and I have like a week left, I call in that favor, and guess who shows up? Night after tour, Dead, all these things, biggest artist in the world, right? Like that's far more valuable than me getting a couple of grand. Like we all win together, right? And the bigger he gets, like that's part of my story. Like now we're talking about, like that's all. That's a great
crazy,
look for
right?
me if I'm able to say, oh, I booked his first show, I got his first mixtape, all these things, first ever interview. You know, all that stuff is wild. So like success like helps, like that makes me look bigger, right? Like the bigger I get, the bigger you get, the bigger we get.
Yep.
I'll say it 10 years ago we couldn't, people laughed at people trying to be artists here. Yeah. So right now it's very different. Now we have artists, hundreds of artists here, you know, so and I believe that see, when I believe my page, like my platform changed when George Floyd passed away. Like eyes from all over the world started tuning in to Minnesota. Yeah. And now ever since then, it's like this is the spot. Like everybody wants to come up here and see what's going on for some reason.
So
like,
people don't realize there's so much talent here, right?
So
like,
much.
And music, Minnesota is such an eclectic place for a couple reasons. It's midway in the country, right? You have the Mississippi River that splits it east and west. So it's really a melting pot too of cultures, right? Like you look at the communities and how big we are from so many different races. And if you look at the musical history of here, right? Like, of course, you have like, you know, the greatest pop artist of all time, in my opinion, with Prince, right? Who's just the greatest musician I've ever seen and worked with, without question. But then you look at like you had rock bands like Soul Asylum. You had Edie Amin and the Outlaws from Tupac's camp went to Central, right? Like you have the whole Rhymesayers collective. You have, you know, Lizzo. You have Alan and Bobby. Like there's so much talent that's come from here, and different DJ like. From across different genres. It wasn't just one genre, which is really unique, and why I think Minneapolis is just so you know, has such a unique eclectic scene.
Yeah, it's so different.
That's like precisely, man. Like,
because it's not just hip hop, it's not just rock, it's not just like most areas of that. Minneapolis has all these things.
Yep. Yeah. So that we try to cover everything because it's all important to the culture.
And so that's why I've been able to tour with Chris Cornell on the rock side and with Prince and do the hardest mixtapes with Game and then interview Lady Gaga.
That's
right?
so dope, bro.
And maneuver those things. It's because I think I was here. If I was somewhere else, I would have probably just been one. But I've never been one to be into the labels, and that's what's so unique about this city.
Man.
Yeah, no, seriously, you're like a walking enigma of that, like
if Minnesota was a person.
We try.
Yeah, for real, man. So, it's that time, man. We got a lot of artists coming up, you know, and they're reaching different platforms. They're going outside of Minnesota and bringing it back, you know. 100%. So we try to preach that. So we go out and go meet Desto Dub and go out to New York to mess with these people out here and Texas and Atlanta. You got it, and then just bring it back home. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to move away. I mean, you can. But in this time, the internet is big. Yeah,
for like when I left, right? Like I felt like I had to. There wasn't like a place like I could have been. Nowadays, you're right. That this is people weren't on the internet. And you couldn't do those things. You had to go to New York to LA to make it. And those things. Now you don't need to. You can get hot from anywhere, right? Which I'm jealous of a little bit, right? Like, but yeah, like I think anybody can do those things, and there's so much opportunity right now, and no matter where it is, some people maybe you do go out, but like anybody from here, that's what I always try to say is like, look, if I can do it, if others can do it, you can do it. Like, you know, this place is like, you know, it's easy to get discouraged and around people, and it's tough too because it's middle of the map. A lot of people don't think of it Minneapolis first, but you're out here like you can do anything, right? Like some of the biggest talent best artist most talented artist of all time is from here, right?
Yep. We even got an artist on the XXL, Casey.
Yeah, shout to Casey,
that's the
exactly,
first,
right?
That's big, and we try to showcase, tell the city like this is big. We need to get behind this.
Everybody support. Like, look, it's a winner. Like, even if anybody from it, like, it shines a light, which will give more attention to everybody. Right? When a light comes over, sprays out everything. It doesn't just light on one. Like, yeah, it's let one person get the attention, but it lets you get all that, a lot more.
Now they looking like who else they got here now. Yeah,
100%. And you get a couple of them, and then you get a movement. There's a lot of people in the industry from out here that try to support. There's executives from Rock Nation that live here right now, right? That are based here. You got Ryan over at 300, who's crushing it, right? With Gunna, everybody
That's our
else.
guy, man. That's our guy.
Shout out to Ryan, right? Like, he's doing his thing, and he puts on as much as he can, right? Like, he's in New York, but he's another guy that comes back.
We say y'all got a similar story. He went to New York, and you went to LA though.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's dope, man. So, yeah, man, Skee, you a man of many different hats, man.
We try. We gotta do it again, man.
So I see you at man. I said just what are you focused on right now before we get up out of here? Like we see. You've been coming back home a little bit more. I've been seeing
we got a lot of
and you doing the games.
It's always fun. I mean, growing up out here. As a DJ, right? Like, I used to. My favorite part of the games was funny when I watch games is like watching the intros and always the music, watching Michael Jordan be introduced back in the day and all those things. And I always thought I was going to be a pro athlete, but I didn't make it. But I found a way into the stadium the other way, right? Like through the music side. Yep. So it's a dream come true. Like, I'm a diehard sports fan, and being able to work with like the Vikings, Twins. My favorite teams in the world growing up is just incredible, right? Like, to be able to come back and step back and come back to my roots is always fun. And especially now the Twins are on a run, so doing some cool stuff with them. You'll see us doing some stuff over the next year too. There'll be some fun announcements and releases there. And with the Vikings, right? Like, hometown, we've won Best Game Day Entertainment in the NFL the 7 years that I've been there, which is wild, over other cities. And so just fun to come and no matter how the season turns out, it's going to be it's always a fun environment, fun energy, and fun way for that. And we'll get there one day. That ring is going to be sweeter when we get it. So, yeah.
Very sweet, man.
We ain't never going to stop talking once we get that ring.
I know, right? It's going to be that much sweeter, right? Like, we felt it the other night when the Twins won a playoff game, right? Like, exactly. It was like a weight lifted. And other markets, like, LA people wouldn't care, but here it means that much more. And that's why when it happens,
just like the Timberwolves, Patrick Beverly jumping 100%. On the.
You guys get it. It's different. Everybody's like, I don't get it. Why it's like, you guys don't know.
Man, y'all don't exactly, man.
Y'all don't know what we've been through.
We've been counted out so long. It's like we need these wins, man.
Yeah, small market, like it's tough, but we're gonna get there, and it's gonna be sweet when we do.
Yeah, because we the only thing we're missing is that like championship energy, the W type energy,
and it's contagious.
Yeah, once we get that spark, same with like in the music game, right? So over in Detroit, you got Rio. I mean, you've had many Detroit artists, legendary artists, but Rio was the one who really was like, oh, you see Rio, now you see Mike, now you see Jay, now you see all his other little guys. We just need that one little spark.
100%. 100%.
And it's like
Detroit got the wave now.
Yeah.
They definitely changed the trap music.
We right next door, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're up next. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta be up next.
Yep. So I got another question. How was it working with Nipsey?
Oh man, Nip was unlike anybody else. Like, it was so interesting when I first met him. Just so raw, right? Like, from the streets, very unpolished in every way, right? But you could tell there was something different about him that was unlike probably anybody I've ever met. Like, he had this mentality and knew exactly what he wanted to do without questioning himself, and was bringing everybody else along for it. And while he was from the streets, right? Like, like hardcore, and he repped that. He knew he was more than that. That's just happened to be where he put in, but his mind was a lot bigger than that. And he wanted to bring everybody along. And then over the years, like, we did beyond the mixtapes and stuff, managed him for a little bit of time. He wanted to really learn. He appreciated what I did in the business side. I actually wrote an article on Drake and how I thought Drake should. I was like, man, imagine if he stayed independent. He didn't sign. He didn't need a label deal. They paid him a ton, but Nip saw that and was like, I want you to manage me. I'm like, dude, I don't want to manage. Like, I'm not dealing with day-to-day. He's like, don't worry about day-to-day. I just need like a business partner in that. Okay. And his vision was incredible, right? Like, I mean, he knew exactly who he was and what he wanted to be without any compromise. And a couple things I learned from him is like, I brought... we were talking with Ross, who wanted to do a deal with MMG and all those things, and I thought it was a good idea, right? Like, and Nip was like, and I was like, dude, do a couple albums, like, who cares, blow up, and then you own the rest. Like, Ross got a great deal. He loved him. Like, there was nothing with that, but he was like, no, I want to do it myself. He was so stuck on that, even though that would have been a shortcut. He didn't want to take any shortcuts. He wanted to do his vision. And where it really hit me, like, what he'd done and the accomplishments, and like, he was always like far beyond that. Like, he was telling me books to read and how he was looking at branding and marketing himself, and just like a different guy. Like, he was far beyond kind of everybody else, right? Everybody else was trying to keep up with him. But when he passed away, literally in LA, I'd almost underestimated his popularity, if that makes sense, right? Because you look at stats and numbers, he has never had like a #1 Billboard record. There'd been a lot of artists that have passed away that things happen. When he passed away, it was on par, very equal, very close to Kobe, right? Who's all those things, which is insane, right?
Yes.
Like having the 27-mile procession through LA, seeing everybody come out, seeing all the murals being brought up, the impact he had,
coming together,
everybody coming together, and it put me on. I really realized, I was like, holy shit, he really did it, right? Like, and it shows long-term versus short-term. If he was just after that hit record and did those things, he would have come and gone. People would have been like, damn, R.I.P. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The fact that he built this and did it for the community, had so much respect without even being, like, he was big, Grammy nominated, like, not that he was small, let's not take it like that, right? But like, he was not sales and statistically wise on the level of a lot of other artists, but his impact when he passed away, far beyond that, because of everything that he did and the impact that he had in the community, culture, his mentality, one of a kind unicorn. And, you know, still like there's been a lot of people that have gone, that I've seen pass away. That one's still like, it was way too early. It was not right. And he had a lot more to give, and that one's still like tough. And like TMC, when we moved in our new building, that's when we started working with him with the banners up. We before we left our last building in Cahuenga in Hollywood, we put a whole mural up with Retna and Archer One, his artist. And like, TMC is kind of my motto that I still live by every day, right? Like, the marathon continues every day. So man, Nip was, and he's still like, through those things, I'm like, damn, he's still teaching us even after he's passed away.
You still feel that energy, man. He really a legend now. Like,
and I was like, wow, you really did it, right? Like, he did it his way, and it worked out bigger. If he would have gone the short paths, he wouldn't have had, I don't think that impact would have been as big as it was. So
Thanks. R.I.P. Nip, man.
R.I.P. Nip, man. So you got any advice for artists coming up in Minnesota? Like,
go out and do it and be great. Find your own lane. Do it. Like, don't wait on others. Just go out and do it. Don't be scared. Like,
don't be scared.
Go get it. Go snatch it. It's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. Blow up, build, start in your neighborhood. You don't need me and all those things. Let me find you, right? Like, that's how it's going to work. I can't. If I had the power, by the way, to just play somebody and blow them up, I'd sign you, everybody out there, and just make money, right?
Because we all want to make money.
Yeah, like, if it was that, it's not that easy, right? Like, I can help amplify once things happen, right? But until then, you have to, like, people are gonna be, what's the stats? What's that? Like, and you have to go out and get it started. You have to ignite that flame.
And that rings true all the way down to us. You know, we get a lot of requests. Post us. Like, well, we'll post you, of course, but like, that doesn't mean you're gonna get 1,000.
Doesn't mean anything,
right? It don't mean nothing.
No matter who you are, right?
If your music not good, if you're not out here doing the work, it's not gonna.
And it's not happening. It's a grind. Like, don't expect it. Like, work hard, patience, persistence, perseverance, right? Like, go through that.
Unless you're Sexy Red, it's not likely you're gonna get overnight hit.
I know, right? And like, that can happen, but you never know. She put herself in the position at the record. Like, things happen. Just get out there and do it. And iterate.
Precisely.
She definitely had a lot of songs before that song came and popped. So she put the work in.
Put the work in. So, anything, you know, anything like you'd want to tell the people, you know, because, you know, DJ Skee, man, that's a ghost thing there, man.
Come on, thank you guys for having me.
Anything happen? Any events this weekend?
Just Vikings game this
weekend. Just the Vikings game?
Yeah, we'll see if there's some Twin stuff coming up too, so it should be fun. But thank you guys for having me, and shout out to everybody in the hometown for always showing love and all the support. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these cities. So and everybody along the journey, from Tim at Urban Lights, sold my mixtape to Central High School, learning how to engineer, and everybody that I worked with and were in classes and worked in the production side with, to on. People put me on KMOJ, to even the Vikings, Twins, all the organizations that have continued to work with me over these years. It's I got nothing but love for the hometown. Like,
Oh yeah, again, shout out Ryan, man, for introducing us to Skee, man. Like, appreciate that, man, for real.
Of course.
Shout out Ryan over at 300, man. Shout out Tim and Urban Lights. Shout out everybody that's helped all this come together, man.
Of course, and so many others. I don't mean to forget it. There's been so many along the way. Everybody out there, you truly appreciate it.
Yeah, that's all right, man. Like we were saying earlier, this is only part 1.
Exactly.
Man, we got a lot to talk about, man.
Let's go. Keep crushing it, guys, man. I love to see you guys crush it.
Man. Thanks for having me, man.
Let's get it, of course, man.
Thank you, man.
I'll be good.
All right, you too.
We out.
Man, it's the New Twin Cities, man. New Twin Cities podcast, Motivation to Hustle, Blue Spirit, man. We had DJ Skee in the building. Make sure y'all hit up the Instagram. Y'all go check out the Orlando Bando interview too, man. We went out to Detroit and tapped in with Baby Trying people, you feel me?
It's a hip hop lab.
Motivation to Hustle, we everywhere, and we're trying to bring it back home, man. Keep going up.
Let's go.
Peace.